Hello and welcome to another episode of Forts. Today we'll be doing something a little bit different, mostly because my audio for this particular recording got a little bit corrupted and I couldn't save it. So for this, we've got ourselves a 1v1 challenge, and at the prize, at stakes, we have a Forts game key. This will be a 1v1 between myself, here displayed in my point of view, versus our very own King Benjai. So this will be a best 2 out of 3. If he manages to win the 2 out of 3, he will be rewarded with a game key, so we can have great content for you guys. And in this particular case, I'm doing what I usually do. I'm building myself a sniper here to make sure I can have some map control. I've already put down my weapons, my technology, so I can get some new and shiny weapons. In this case, I'm going with the armory, because on this map, the closeness of the bases as well as the very wide face allows for a lot of rocket shenanigans. I'm only going with 3 mines this time, so I'll be getting out technology and weapons faster, but I'll start to slow down quite a lot when it gets to the endgame. Thankfully, at least on this map, endgame doesn't come very swiftly. So you'll get to see some of my shenanigans that I'll do here. I see that my opponent actually, I keep checking my opponent here, but I see that he hasn't actually done anything to contest the field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start shooting machine gun. And you see how King immediately opens up one of his snipers, hidden snipers. And this is what I want, because now I can open up my own sniper and counter-snipe. So while he takes out my machine gun, I get to take out his sniper, and I, again, have map control. And just as my rocket, my first EMP, is finishing up, and there I go revealing it, I can use the map control to start dishing out damage. Looks like I did run out of energy here, so I don't have enough turbines to actually sustain firing of my rocket, my EMP. So I'll have to start putting down turbines here, which is unfortunate for me. This is something I really should have done beforehand. I usually put down a turbine right after my technology. I failed to do so this time, which is a mistake on my end, and it cost me my ability to fire an EMP a good 10-15 seconds earlier. But there I got a very nice shot onto his core, completely shutting down his energy production, which will not only stop him from building things, but from firing his weapons. So at this point I've got him on almost complete lockdown. As long as I continue to fire this EMP, which I do, then King is going to be at a real bad place here. Yes, it looks like King is retaliating by using what resources he has to build a bit of armor off the front, just little wooden ablative style armor. Just the next EMP hit shouldn't shut down that. It still shuts down his core. He doesn't have quite enough. And there he goes. He's building even more armor. So that shouldn't shut down its core anymore if I manage to hit that same spot. And we'll see, do I hit it? I do, and the core is not offline. So now this EMP is not shutting down his core anymore and keeping his energy production full. I'm starting to float a little bit of resources here. I'm curious how long it takes for me to notice this. Now there I go for the upgrade. It looks like I did notice, because I am starting to put some metal down. So there we go. Floating resources is bad, and don't do that ever. I was doing a little bit of floating there, and I fixed it just by building more stuff. That's what you want to be doing. Constantly firing weapons is good, but floating resources is worse. Far, far worse. Usually I don't build storages, because building storages just means that I've decided that floating resources is... stopping the floated resources is too hard, and I need to have a bigger pool. But honestly, building storages is much better than floating resources, not even by a small margin. Now I see there that he's doing some shenanigans with building new background bracing, so I went ahead and hopped on the sniper there and started sniping him out. I'm still having energy production problems, which is why I put down another another turbine. And as you see, with the lack of firepower coming at him, maybe just due to my lack of energy production, my opponent here is starting to be able to build machine gunners and try to contest. So I'm hopping in the sniper here to try to remove a lot of his machine gunners, which is working. I'm not hitting things as often as I would like, but it is slowly taking down all of his machine gunners. It looks like I'm going to be adding some more energy here, because I'm still running out of energy much too quickly. Getting another battery just to help with the floating problem that I was referring to. And see, here I'm still out of energy. But I do have one of my second turbine just came online, so hopefully that should help me. At least it should help me quite a lot. My opponent here getting a few machine gunners up and running. Me taking them out one by one with the sniper. Machine gunners here are great for attracting sniper fire away from your other, more valuable weaponry, as well as scouting out where exactly the opponent's weapons are. Now here my opponent has managed to get down many more machine gunners, so I've got a lot more work to do with the sniper rifle before I can start landing these rocket shots again. I can hear him replacing the machine gunners as I'm taking them out, which is very difficult for me to deal with, just because, well, more stuff for me to deal with, the less damage I can do to his core. I did manage to get a little bit of splash damage on his core, but at this point, it's not going to be enough to finish out the round. I have to get many more hits on target. Now here, I am keeping my metal reserves pretty low, so I can't keep expanding much faster than I already am, but with my energy production coming online with 3 turbines, I'm finally able to keep a lot more pressure onto these rockets. Which I should be doing right about now. There they are. As long as I keep cycling between them, my opponent here is going to have a real hard time dealing with this. Yeah, we're damaging his economy here because this is splash damaging onto his mines. We're keeping all of his machine gunners down. Look, no retaliation from his machine gunners. Just constant sniper suppression. Now at this point, despite all this damage that I'm doing, it looks like I'm getting a bit worried for heavy weapons, because honestly my opponent hasn't done much in returning fire. All he's done is build machine gunners and such, and that's kind of concerning. It makes me think that he's going for technology, which is a valid concern. Despite me doing all this economic damage, despite him forced to be replacing gunners and rebuilding things and having his core shut down repeatedly, it is still quite possible to have a heavy weapon coming out pretty quickly here, if not already. So adding on that extra layer of armor around the core is critical, or at least potentially very important. It's a safeguard against having a surprise turnaround. You don't want to be surprised by our opponent. You never know what they can pull off. Now, it looks like I'm trying to transition here into heavy weapons. The two options that you can go for here is, well, more rockets to try to force them out of the game, or going for a heavy weapon here. I appear to be going for the heavy weapon option. I've upgraded my sniper rifle because my opponent has started to put metal all over the place, and adding this sniper rifle will make the metal that he's put down, well, really obsolete. So my opponent will have spent, or is it like 250 per piece of metal. He's put metal left and right, and then it suddenly becomes mostly useless just because I put an upgraded sniper on there, which is far cheaper than 250 metal, making a lot of this much more expensive for him and extremely cost efficient for me. So with just one upgraded sniper, I can create a resource differential that's huge between the two of us, giving me a massive advantage, and maybe even giving me enough resources here to put down my heavy weapons facility when my opponent still doesn't have one, which would be even more critical here. And at this point, I'm still having resource production issues, and I do need to be upgraded some of my turbines because honestly, my base is getting a bit big, a bit top heavy. A heavy weapon hit at the bottom or the core could cause the rest of my base to fall down, which is a problem. So it looks like I do upgrade a turbine there, which is gonna significantly harm my resource income for the short term. But once it comes online, it should bounce back. At this point, I still don't have enough energy income to completely and constantly fire both of my rockets, but I can fire them periodically or in bursts, which is very important to keep doing as often as possible. I have yet to float another bunch of metal or energy, so things are going quite well here. My opponent's being suppressed. You can see that he's just spamming down machine gunners, spamming down wood to try to keep alive, but doesn't seem to be actually retaliating or doing anything that would prevent me from continuing the pressure on him. Eventually he's just going to get worn down, and once I get the heavy weapons online, it's going to be really difficult to stay cost efficient. It looks like here I'm building a platform for a cannon or another heavy weapon, and one of the reasons I go for cannons here is that cannons don't have a cost efficient means of defending against them. It's unlike lasers, which you can build shields. If you get hit by a cannon, it's doing the damage regardless of whether or not you defend against it. Even if you build wood, its cannons penetrate through quite a fair bit of wood and send their splash damage absolutely everywhere. Meaning, once you hit that repair button, you're going to have a hefty bill, usually completely negating all of your resource income for the duration of the repair, which is pretty damaging to your economy and pretty damaging to your fire and your output as well, your damage output. Just because you can't keep up the output if all of your resources are going into defending your base. Combine that with a few rockets, and you just drain your opponent of everything. If they're going to go with the ablative style armor, and they can't keep building it just due to the resource expenditure of repairing, they're going to be, well, forced out of the game. And that's the idea behind this. We'll see how well it gets implemented here. I am keeping up the pressure with the rockets. You see, even with 3 mines, I'm able to progress this far into the heavy weapons, so really you don't need more than 3 mines, but if I were to have a 4th mine, I would certainly have been able to get out the cannons faster than this. Much, much faster than this. And that looked like a heavy sniper coming out of him, one of the armor-piercing ones, so I gotta be real careful about that. I definitely need to focus that down. Is at the moment, all of my weapons are available to be hit by a heavy sniper. I only have a single door behind my rockets. Most of my weapons, or at least half of my weapons, aren't even covered at all by any kind of protection. As you see, he used the sniper, but I managed to get the retaliation there. He only took out a machine gunner with that, which is fine for me. Now, I do have a cannon coming up here. Ooh, and a heavy hit. Sends splash damage all over the place. You see how deep? It went 2 layers deep into his base. It didn't actually take him out. Didn't cause any significant damage other than causing splash damage everywhere. But now my opponent has a flak, which is going to be somewhat problematic. I do need to take care of that before the rockets can do anything significant. So otherwise, well, that's just going to happen. My rockets are going to go away, and my weapons down here are going to take damage. It's one thing to take damage on the machine gunners, that's fine, but damage on the rockets is not good. If those rockets go down, those are expensive, and they explode. Another cannon shot, doing a lot of damage to his base. Nothing significantly damaging, but it is causing a resource drain, and that's what I'm going for here. If I continue moving down, I'll be able to build another cannon there. And once you get 2 cannons in, that's when the serious damage starts to pile up. As 2 cannons, the combined splash damage is sufficient to actually start destroying things. Now that shotgun hit, the retaliation from the rocket there, was pretty close to doing some serious damage. It only took out machine gunners. Here it looks like I want to prepare to go for mortars or perhaps a swarm missile. There's no real... Okay, so the only swarm missile position here I've already covered, so there's not a whole lot I could do here. My opponent's almost actually taking me out there. He broke this one piece that was holding a lot of weight, so I do need to reinforce that, and it looks like that's what I'm doing. Yeah, my opponent trying to actually retaliate and doing some damage, but all he has is shotguns, which are great for taking out weapons, not so great for digging through armor. It can be done over time, but, well, we don't need to give him that amount of time. And for every shotgun round that goes into trying to take out my economy or to take out my base is one less round of shotguns that's going into taking out my weapons. Like there's just bouncing harmlessly off the metal and destroying one gunner. I did expand a little bit upward with my base, which would provide a great position for mortars, so it looks like I will be going for mortars here to try to finish off. Mortars, not that great of a finisher weapon, certainly not better than a cannon, but the added pressure, just a little bit more pressure, can be all it takes to force the opponent out of the game. You see here, between the rockets, the cannon shots, he's really struggling here. All he's able to get is just a few shotguns, which is, as you guys know, is not terribly expensive weaponry. All I need is a little bit more push and my opponent should just come tumbling down. And that's the idea here. The mortars should supply just that a little bit more of economic damage and completely shut him out of the game. Like all he's got is one machine gunner left to try to contest these rockets. One machine gunner and a shotgun. And also a sniper apparently. But that sniper's been back and forth all game and it's not done a whole lot of damage. My opponent trying to take out my wind turbines here. If he can keep me energy locked, that would do a lot of damage. I'm switching these straight over to heavy mortars just to get the extra surprise damage. My opponent managing to wear down the metal on the front of my base, which is okay. It's easily replaceable. I've got multiple layers. Even if he takes down one layer, I could still survive a heavy weapon hit there. Ooh, another heavy hit with the rockets. A lot more damage coming in from that heavy weapon for the cannon. And with the first volley of mortars, we take out some of his metal as well as a lot of armor across a lot of wood across the top of his base. A second volley coming in might just end the game here, and it does. Opponent not able to repair in time. I take the 1-0 lead in this best of 3. And we're off to round 2, featuring Vanilla, one of my favorite maps. It's just so, well, it's vanilla. There's nothing terribly exciting going on. All strategies are viable, and well, really the action kicks off fairly quickly most of the time on these maps. So here it looks like I've already deviated from my most efficient paths. I've built some little extra pieces of wood up there before putting down the tech structure, which is a no-no usually, because that delays your tech structure by a few seconds, and a few seconds could be life or death in this particular game. Putting down the sniper already just to make sure my opponent is suppressed. We start with the machine gunner, so I don't have to worry about that. Looks like my opponent's using the machine gunner. Give me something to shoot back with. Or should I say to shoot back at. Looks like I'll be going mortars this time, which is pretty standard for my particular playstyle. I like the very aggressive, very fast-paced, suppressive styles of play, and mortars are pretty good for that because it forces your opponent to either defend or retaliate fairly swiftly. And that could be problematic. I have been playing the Overdrive Commander thus far, which is one of my favorite go-to commanders. This not particularly good at anything, but does everything quite well. You know, if you need to go late game, Overdrive works well because of the extra building speed. It works well because of the extra resource generation. But it doesn't really help you do damage output. So if you want to close out a game quicker, most other commanders would do better for you. So I've already putting down my first mortar. I'm building a door here. It looks like I'm going to be prioritizing potential harassment over the mortars. If you get one mortar down, it forces a response out of your opponent, and then you can continue to harass them. And in this case, I've already seen some bullet fire coming from my opponent here. So having a door on the sniper pretty much ensures that I'll be safe from harassments while being able to start my own harassment with the existing mortar. It's a bit more swift of an opening, but a lot less damaging. So here my opponent's clearly going for a lot of mortar defenses, which is good on his part. Doesn't appear to have a sniper or anything, but with the removal of 3 of his machine gunners, I am fairly clear here to start attacking with my own mortars. Looks like he's got no machine gunner, so this one, the first mortar is going to land squarely across the top of my opponent's base. It doesn't take anything out, but will ignite things and force the repair. Alright, I'm starting to flesh out the back of my base, that way I can add some more stuff. My opponent finally getting a sniper, which immediately gets hit by a mortar. Can he save it? He could save it, but he loses it to my own sniper. Unfortunately, it looks like he traded snipers here, so I did lose my own, but that's fine because there's nothing left for me to snipe at the moment. My mortars are still free to rain fire from above. I'm saving up for the tech setter here. Get some upgraded mortars coming in. With the upgraded mortars comes potentially lethal damage. My opponent's still fleshing out his base and defenses to try to defend against them. Sniper putting in good work, shutting down gunners. Mortars doing a little bit of damage. Here I noticed that my opponent has placed a barrel. This means my opponent is shotgun on commander, which is really quite terrifying because it throws a proverbial wrench, in this case a very literal high explosive barrel, somewhere on my base, which could be potentially game ending. There's always an opportunity that it just blows up your entire base. Fortunately, my base design is mostly capable of denying any potential barrel placements. With my snipers taking all the forward positions and all the other positions being in the back of the base, I don't have to worry too much about the barrels. So I should be pretty good here to just keep up the firepower. Looks like that's what I'm doing. I'm adding a little bit of extra armor just to keep my resources low because I'm starting to come close to floating. Mortar still landing in. My sniper taking out his machine gun is preventing my opponent from properly defending against the mortars, and they're just starting to do some damage. I do get the upgrade in there after firing off one volley, or firing off the last volley. So the next volley of mortars, assuming I can keep his machine gunners suppressed, between now and the few seconds remaining before they're finished upgrading will do a lot of damage. So it looks like my opponent has fired at my mortars with a upgraded sniper. Or is trying to anyways, which could cause significant damage to them. In fact, I was just able to protect them within a few seconds of an upgraded sniper shot coming straight toward them. Would have lost my mortars if I had been any slower on the defensive there. My opponent finally able to get up just enough machine gunners. He's built himself a couple machine gun nests across his base, which are going to shut down with my mortars for the moment, but I'm going to keep firing them. I'm transitioning toward the swarm missiles, as the swarm missiles will finally be able to overwhelm his defenses. Just firing the swarm missiles and the heavy mortars all at once is usually more than sufficient to shut down to overwhelm any amount of defenses, unless you've got an absurd amount of them. A little bit of a misplaced piece of metal there. Not great for my economy, but it shall suffice. The reason I wanted metal there is just to keep the shotgun barrels from spawning. If they spawn there, it makes them snipeable, which could cause problems for my core if something explodes there. Which is not great, but is no longer a possibility with that metal being placed there. It looks like I'm trying to change targets here to focus fire on his machine gun nest, because at the moment, I just need to prevent him from having a constant means of stopping. Oh my, it looks like I had a shotgun barrel appear right on top of my mortars as my mortars were firing, causing a lot of damage, actually destroying all of my mortars at once. Which is really bad, because I don't have enough economy to easily replace these. Which is going to cause quite a bit of a problem for me. I'm trying to replace them here, but now my base is tilting a bit. He might be able to get a sniper over there and pull off that last mortar, which is real unfortunate for me. So he's done a significant amount of damage. At this point, I can't really do lethal damage with these mortars. I need at least 3 heavy mortars to do a lot of damage with it. But I do have the nuke already upgrading. Once that lands, all I have to do is just... or once that's available, all I have to do is have my mortars fire to distract the machine gunners and send the nuke in. If that lands, that could be game ending right there. Unfortunately, Shotgun coming in clutch, almost completely destroying all of my damage output with 1 commander ability activation, which is a bit concerning for me, a bit frustrating really, but I might not be enough. It's certainly let my opponent stabilize here, but if he is not able to defend this nuke, which he's only got 1 machine gunner that can actually fire against it. Is it going to be enough? Nope. Nuke lands, and that's it. And that's my opponent down 0-2. Rip King Benjai. So King Benjai will not be winning the Fort's game key this time around. But for that, I'm going to have to wind down this episode. If you guys like this style of video where we cast and post all the glorious combat, let me know and I could do some more videos just like this. But for now, make sure to share this video with your friends. Let them know that they too can win a Fort's key, or at least get the opportunity to. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Later!